In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to apply a NormalMap cage in Max. I have a face here. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate it on that. So I have a low resolution cage, and I'm going to export that as an OBJ file. So go to Export, Export Selected, and you're going to choose OBJ right down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a quick high poly model in ZBrush. So I'm coming over here to ZBrush. I'm going to import my OBJ that I have just exported. Alright, so with this OBJ, alright, I'm going to bring in my model, and I'm going to divide this. I'm on 4 subdivisions, and I'm just going to create a surface detail here, and then I'm going to export that. As you can see, I have one. I'll just overwrite that one. Now, jumping back to my Max file, I'm going to import, merge, and say import. So now you can see that my high mesh is in here. Now from this point, what I'm going to do is select on my low poly mesh and go to my create panel, and you can see my unwrap is still here. I'm just going to collapse all, and I'm going to come up here to the modifier list, and I'm going to select projection. Okay, that'll put a projection modifier on. And if I open that up to subobject cage, you can see that the points on the cage have come up. The cage is blue. And what this cage does is simply give me the outside parameter of the high resolution mesh to be projected on the low resolution mesh. So that said, we're going to need to make sure that the cage encompasses the high resolution mesh completely. As you can see, I've got some that come out pretty far. It's really affecting the silhouette there. So we'll see how that does. In order to do that, one quick way to help you get there is to come down here. I'm going to select on shaded so I can see a little bit better. And I'm going to come down here to the feature called push amount, and I'm just going to watch my ear because I have concerns here about the ear being in cut like that. So I'm just going to watch that amount, and I'm going to grow that as much as I can, but staying as close to the surface as possible. In order to have a good cage and a good outcome, you're going to need to stay as close to the surface as possible, but encompass the high resolution cage. So what I'm going to be doing now is modifying this cage just a little bit more to make sure that it's grabbing all of the surface detail here. And this may take a little time. So what they've done is given you options such as soft selection. You can come in here, grab some of these cage. It's way too much fall off, so I'm going to dial that down. You can see when I do that, the colors change. Alright, and I just want to affect that area here. So with my move tool now, I'm going to bring this cage out, and this is pretty far for a normal map, so I'll be interested to see how well that does. I can see that that's using the entire cage now. Alright, so I want to come in here get some of these and pull them out. And I'm not going to do the other side yet because I want you to see what happens when the definition is not something selected on the other side here. Oops. Okay. I want you to be able to see what happens when the cage does not encompass the entire set. Alright, let's see here. Okay, so we've got enough. You know how to modify this cage to encompass the detail. Now what we're going to do is a test render. You go up here to render, render to texture, and you have some options. I go with the defaults for the most part, but there are a couple things that you need to make sure that you have selected, and that is where you're putting the file. That's fine. Right down here, you want to make sure that projection mapping is enabled and you're using the current channel, which is 1. Very important that you have your smoothing groups on 1 or it will not work. So to eliminate frustration, be sure that you have your smoothing groups. You've selected all your smoothing groups before you begin, and you make sure that they're on channel 1. There are other options, but that really is the easiest way to do that. And make sure that it's on 1. Come here to add. In output, you need to add a NormalMap, add element, and you can see now that it's listed for the output. You're also going to select the size. This is just a test, so actually I'm going to do it a little bit higher so that you can see it in my capture here. It might take a little more time, but now let's see. There are a couple other settings here, but let's just try it. We'll say render. I'm going to overwrite those files I've already tested. Ooh, and it's coming up all red. Now, this is curious because red is the indicator that shows that the cage is not capturing those particular surface UV. So let's close this and see if we can determine what it is that's wrong. So let's first check our settings because I know my cage is at least encompassing some of that. In my selections, I have high poly selected, picked from the list under reference geometry. I have cage shaded on. Okay, wrapping tolerance 0.3. Let's see. And I have project mapping 1 added. Let's see. Alright. And over here I have low poly selected and the NormalMap input. Alright, let's give it another try here. And you can see that I've rendered it, tested it. It is now working, but now you can better see that these would be the areas. Then you need to go back and tweak your cage in order to include those. And all down in here. Now there is a different way that you can help this out. If you've tweaked and rendered and you still have some areas, you can just simply take this map into Photoshop and use your blend tool or your stamp and go ahead and correct these areas that way. I wouldn't suggest doing this much, but if you have some little detail around the eye or something that's fairly insignificant in the nose here, you can go ahead and fix that in Photoshop. Alright, so now that we have our texture, our NormalMap created, we're going to go ahead and apply that. Close these windows. We no longer need the projection, so we'll just delete that, and we will hide for now our high poly mesh. We'll come in here to the material editor. Let's just start from scratch so you can see what I'm doing. We'll go ahead and select on bump, and you need to select normal bump. This is what this is the option that you need in order to get the correct bump in there. So a lot of windows open here. Now we'll drop and drag this on here, drag and drop it on, so that it's applied correctly, and then I'm going to go ahead and dial this up, and we'll see what we get when we render that. Not seeing it yet, so let's go ahead and troubleshoot this. Probably because it's not on here. It's that. Okay, and we can definitely see our normal map, but because of lack of lighting, it's not showing up very well. So let's try to get a light on there so we can see it a little bit better. Create panel, going to photometric light. Let's see how well that does. Okay, front. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, now we can begin to see. And what I've done is, in order to see them in my viewport, is go to Views, Show Materials in Viewport, and click on Hardware Display with Maps. So we can begin to see, as the slide is rather harsh, that the normal map is coming in and is applied, and our onto our low resolution mesh. Our high res is on our low resolution mesh here now. Alright, so that would be the workflow for applying your high res to your low res. And these areas right in here, as you can see, are the areas that were not picked up by the cage, so that's what they'll look like if they're not corrected. But you can go into Photoshop and correct these very easily with your blend tool. Just blend those away.